So welcome to Getting the Most from Your Mac. Um, I want to, before we get into the meat of the program, I want to share a few upcoming technology programs that are on the way, done by myself at Hinsdale or my colleagues. Can everybody see these programs?
Yep.
Okay, great. So in February, I'm doing a program on how to improve your presence on Zoom and other video conferencing applications. Everything from sound to visuals to everything that you could possibly do, and maybe more than you really want to do, but I'll tell you about it anyway. So that's on February 17th. We've got another program about PowerPoint. If any of you are interested in learning how to present,
taking my shoes off.
That's on February 24th at 7 p.m. I'm doing sort of a follow-up to this program called Getting the Most from Your iPad. If you're interested in that, that's going to be on April 7th. And on April 28th, we have Chromebook Basics. A lot of people are using Chromebooks nowadays. They're very economical and yet can do a lot of what we need them to do. So that's on April 28th. And finally, in May, we have a program about how to make sure you don't lose your images. So we'll talk about Google Photos and Amazon Photos in your smartphone photo safety net. And again, that's May 11th at 7 p.m. So what I'll be talking about tonight is how to get the most from your Mac. Now, this sort of assumes that you have some familiarity with the Macintosh and are just looking for ways to be more efficient. There's a lot to learn, and I don't even know if it's possible to know everything there is to know about the Mac, even though it is a pretty easy operating system overall. So this is not going to be sort of a beginner's guide to the Mac. It's going to be assuming you're like an everyday user or a periodical user of a Macintosh. What can you do? What programs can you use? What tips have I found that might make it easier for you to get the most from your Macintosh? So that's what we'll be talking about. So in essence, this program is going to be sort of a series of little demonstrations of things, of tips that I've found, of applications that I've found. So it's not going to be like a slide sort of presentation. It's going to be a demo sort of presentation. So if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask them. I'm not big on formality, so please feel free to jump in. Are there any questions before we get started?
Mike, when you say applications, are you talking about built-in applications that the Mac already has as opposed to add-ons or something?
Generally, I'm going to be talking about add-ons, things that you may not already have built into your Mac, but a lot of them are free. And I don't know if you all got the link that I sent for the little handout. It's a PDF. Did you guys receive that as an email? Okay,
yeah.
Good. You might refer to that as we're going through this. I've got it on my iPad here, so if I'm looking down, it's not because I'm bored, it's because I'm referring to the same handout that you're seeing. So if we don't have any further questions. Yes.
This is Nancy. I've got one quick question. You had
Sure.
mentioned you're recording this.
Yes.
So will it be available online through the library after this?
Yes, we're going to be uploading it to our YouTube channel. So you can just go to YouTube and search for Hinsdale Public Library, and you'll find all the videos that we upload. I'd say it might take a week or so for it to appear up there.
Thank you.
But that's a great question. Some people aren't going to be able to be here tonight. So hopefully they'll be able to check it out online. Any other questions? Okay, great. So I am going to share my entire screen with you. So bear with me here. Okay, can everybody see what I'm seeing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So as you can see, I've got a fair amount of stuff sort of littering my desktop. And this is not an unusual situation for a lot of us. But what you can do to sort of try to eliminate this, excuse me for just a second here. Okay, is to right click the desktop. And if you can see here, use stacks. And stacks are a way for just kind of minimizing the clutter. So if I do that, you can see that it's putting things into little piles of similar items. So I've got some PDF documents here. I've got a folder. I've got some other things. So that's just right click, use stacks, and you can do the same thing and turn it off. I found that that's pretty handy, and it's been around for a little while on the platform. But if you use your desktop as sort of a temporary place to hold things, this can be a good way to make it look a little more visually appealing. So let's talk about the Finder. So the Finder on my dock is down here in the lower left-hand corner. But basically, you can open up a new Finder window by clicking on File, New Finder Window, or you can just click down on the dock and you'll find a Finder window. So this is where a lot of us do a lot of the file moving and copying and that sort of thing. So here I have the list view, which is my preferred view, but you can quickly change between all the views that are available by when you're in this mode, pressing Command and then 1, 2, 3, or 4. So if I press Command 1, it's sort of the icon view. 2, the list view. 3, that's sort of, I think they call it the columns view, and 4 is this sort of preview or gallery view. So it's just a quick and easy way to toggle between them, and I'm just sort of clicking Command 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. So that's one thing that might help you be a little more efficient. Now, I've been using the Mac for a long time, and it seems to me that at one point we were able to copy a file and then use the menus to move it, but now they don't let us do that. Everything, if you try to highlight some files and go to Edit, Copy, and then I want to paste it here into the demo folder. Oops. There we go. And I go to Edit. There's no move. It's just paste. So if I hit paste, it's going to make a copy of those files instead of moving them. So what you can do instead is, so there's the standard Mac copy is Command C, and by command I mean sometimes it's called the Apple button, but Command C for copy, and Command V is usually for paste. So if I do Command V in the demo folder here, it creates a copy of all of them, just like as if I had done it through the menu up there. But if I instead do Command C and then Command Option V, that actually moves the files, and now they're cluttering up my desktop because that's where I had my cursor. So if you like to move files, that's a good way to do it. Now, I got to say, one of the things that I was thrilled to learn about when I was researching this program is this application called Dropover. And Dropover is sort of a drag and drop utility that improves what's available on the Mac. So, of course, you can drag and drop things, but with Dropover, which I believe is a $4 application, if you hold onto the items you want to move and then you shake your mouse, it opens up this little thing that says drop files here. So that's what they call a shelf. And now you can go and navigate through your file system and drag things from this little shelf, and it moves them to there. So again, you install the application, and I have a link in the PDF. It should be a live link. If you shake your mouse and you drag your files, it puts them on this shelf, and you can add things to the shelf. You can take things away from the shelf. You can click on it to see what's inside the shelf. So it's really pretty handy.
Mike?
That's Dropover. Yes.
I'm sorry, I have, and it might not be a question you can answer. It might be a hardware question. You've talked about right clicking and you've talked about shaking your mouse.
Yes.
I'm using a MacBook Air with just a touchpad. Where right clicking doesn't ever seem to work there or do anything. Maybe if I bought a mouse and plugged it in, I don't know if you have any tips there.
Yeah, that might be a little tricky to shake your, I guess you'd move you'd wiggle your finger on your trackpad.
Maybe, okay. But I don't know if do you use a touchpad? I've never been able to successfully, for example, right click with a touchpad.
I have, I don't have one now. It seems like there is some option on there where you can tell it to use the right part.
I don't want to slow you down. I'll play.
No, that's a great question. Yeah, I think some of these do work better with a mouse, but
a physical mouse would make a difference.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Okay.
Actually, while we're talking about a mouse,
yes,
I never really use a right click on my mouse. It just seems to be one click. Have I set it up incorrectly?
Well, if you have a single button mouse, I think you would hold down maybe Option and click, and that would emulate a right click as if you had a two-button mouse.
Touchpad too. Okay.
So yeah, maybe.
Would you repeat that, please?
Yes, I think if you don't have a two-button mouse, so I have a standard two-button mouse. If you don't have that, I think you can hold down Option and click to emulate that. If we go into System Preferences, which is this little guy here at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Right there. Then you can go to mouse, and here it's asking what my primary mouse button is, left or right. So maybe it senses that I have a two-button mouse, and if you had a single button mouse, it might not. But let's see. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be showing me the Option key, but I think if you don't have a two-button mouse, there's some Option or Control or something. If you hold that down and click, it should be the same thing as a right click.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think a lot of people are in that situation because Apple, for years, they sold just a mouse with one button. Any other questions? Okay. So another thing that I've found to be pretty handy, I have a pretty big monitor, so dragging something all the way from here down to the trash takes quite a lot of time. You can highlight what you want to delete and press Command plus the delete button, and it will send it to the trash. So that's a good way to save a little time, especially if you have a big monitor, or maybe you're using a trackpad and it's difficult to drag things all the way across the length of the screen. So again, that's Command delete, the one by the equal sign, not the delete with a little symbol by it, if you have that kind of keyboard. So another thing that I've found to be useful as I'm in a Finder window here is to add some things to the left-hand column. So there's sort of a standard package of items. You can add other applications or folders to that left-hand favorites area to sort of match your workflow. So if I go into documents and let's say I want to add HPL test files into my left-hand Finder area, I can just grab it and drag it there, let go, and it's just there. So this lets me easily access files that so I know where they are. So that's something I use quite a bit. If you want to see what the sort of standard things that appear there are, this may look different than your computer, the way you have it configured. If you go up to Finder and Preferences and Sidebar, this is where you can sort of check off which items you want to appear in your sidebar, besides the custom ones that you drag over there. So maybe you don't want to have your hard drives and external drives, DVDs, etc., show up there. It's too cluttery for you. So you can turn those off if you want to, or turn them back on. So I think that's kind of a neat thing. Another little tip is in the general area. If you sort of are in the old school and like to see your disk mounted on your desktop, you can click hard drive and external drives, and they'll show you all the drives that are connected. So that's kind of an easy way to dig into your files at the very lowest level. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you add something to your sidebar because you're using it frequently and you want to take it away later, do you drag it back or unclick it, or?
I believe you just left click it or your main mouse button and just drag it off and it should disappear.
Okay. And it would remain where it was originally found.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're just sort of, these are kind of pointers to the
Okay.
folders or whatever. It's not the actual folder.
Okay.
Another thing that you can do is you can see here at the top of my Finder window, I have some applications that I've added. You can do that. You can click on applications, and if there's something that you find that you're using a lot, you can grab it and maybe it's Command grab. Yes. So hold Command down and drag it up into the top of your Finder window, and then it'll be easy to access those applications. It's just one more way of getting to something that you use frequently.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the top of your Finder bar, because that looked different than mine, and I thought because some of the things that I use up there was I could, for example, I could send a file via email to somebody, forward, and I thought there was an option to delete a file from there as well. Like you were using another way to delete a file, but I thought there was a little sort of another kind of a settings up there that allowed me to do multiple functions on a file.
I'm not sure what that is. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some way of handling files that I'm not aware of. There are so many things that you can do in different ways.
I didn't customize it in any way. It was what was appearing on mine. But
yeah, I'm not sure. That doesn't sound familiar to me, but I am not doubting you in the slightest. So those are sort of my Finder tips. If it's okay with you, I'd like to move on to sort of web browser tips.
I have one question, Mike.
Yes.
on my Finder column, there's tags at the bottom, purple, yellow, word.
Oh, yes,
important.
right.
What are those for? How do you use those?
Yeah, I have tags as well. So you can grab a selection of files and tag it in a way that it'll make it easier to remember in the future. So let's see if I go back. I'm trying to remember where I was. Okay, so if I do the right click thing on my mouse, or maybe option click, it lets me attach a tag here. So if I make all those green and then I go down here and click on green, it will show me only those items in my whole file system that have the green tag. So it's just a way for you to sort of remember certain kinds of files that you might access regularly. And in my case, it looks like I've named some things. I've renamed like red, orange, yellow, green. I renamed one of those to circuit. I renamed one of them to important. So you can customize it by right clicking and then rename purple to.
Got it. I see. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
I click on your little circle up here with the caret down.
Oh, here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Click the caret down.
Is this what you're talking about up here?
Yeah. So when I click on the caret down, I get one of my options. There's a long list of options. One is move to trash. Well, you don't have
cool.
any files. You don't have any files showing there.
Yeah, maybe if I
I'll click the
select
down.
something.
I'll click the down.
Yeah, there you go.
And move to trash. You can
yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. The little circle thing shows additional, I guess, actions you can take.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you very much. So moving on to web browsers. I use Safari for the most part. I've used Chrome in the past, and I think that's a fine browser, but Safari seems to be pretty tightly integrated with the Mac, so I tend to use it. One thing I found while I was researching this program is you can take a video and do a picture-in-picture mode. So I'm going to play this video. This is a fitness tech program that Susan McBride and I did a few weeks ago. So as this is playing, I slowly right click on it, and you can see here I have enter picture in picture. Now this is going to take the video and stick it to one of the corners. So I can grab it and it'll go to another corner. I can go to the actual corner of the video and resize it, which is great. And so before I found this trick, I was always kind of going to full screen. I wasn't using the picture in picture, but this seems like a pretty cool thing. Another trick that I found is as you're moving your picture in picture around, you can hold command down and you can move it anywhere on the screen. You don't have to have it snap to the corner. So that's kind of a nice thing. I'm gonna snap it back. So there's an application that makes this even easier. So you don't have to remember that you have to right click slowly and see the picture in picture. It's called Pipifier or Pipifier. I don't know. It's a free download. And when you download it, you get this little icon right here. And that is just a single click, and it does the same thing, basically. It just saves a little time. You can also, let's see, I'm going to send this back. At the top of your browser window, you'll see the same thing up here. There's a little pipifier, and it allows you to do that. So just a little tip with YouTube, and some of the other video platforms will let you do that as well.
Cool.
So while I was doing this program, I did a lot of copying and pasting of links. So I found that there's an easy way to do that as well. So let's just find a website. I don't know why I chose Yahoo. This must be a decade ago or something, but okay. So say I want to send this link to somebody. If you hit Command L, that will automatically highlight the link where you can take action on it. So I'm going to hit Control or Command C to copy it, and then I can paste it into a document. Let's see. Yeah, some of this I can't see because new note and paste. So it's just an easy way. Command L always takes you up to the top, highlights the link, and lets you take action on it. So I think that's a pretty cool tip. Speaking of bookmarks and links and that sort of thing, I have started using a bookmark manager. So you can use the built-in one in Safari. So you can click this little guy and it'll show you all your bookmarks. But I found that it wasn't really doing it for me. It wasn't that effective. It didn't let me search as easily. It was hard to find things. So this company called Raindrop.io has released a bookmark manager that works on a bunch of different platforms, not just Mac. And I use this to store all my bookmarks. So it lets you sort of put them in categories or collections, as they call them. And then within each collection, you can see the bookmarks that I've saved. And one cool thing about Raindrop is that it will actually periodically check all your links to see if they're working. And if they aren't, it will highlight them in this broken links section. So all these they've tried to access, and they worked at one point, but they don't now. So that's a kind of a cool way to cull all the dead weight from your bookmarks. So I do recommend it. It's not a free product. Well, there is a free version, but to get the most for it, I think it's about $30 a year. Another thing that I've discovered, as in fact, I discovered this today, is this sort of Safari extension called Hush. And it basically, it stops those annoying requests for you to accept cookies and that sort of thing, and sort of blocks some of the tracking that websites do. So this I've just started using, but it seems promising because every website that you go to now asks if you want to accept the cookies, and this will just stop them from asking. So it's something worth exploring. This is a free application, so it doesn't cost much to try it out. So that's Hush for Safari. There is another Hush application on the store, I think. But so if you use the link that I provided, you'll get the right one. So moving on from the web to more general tips. So talking about the dock, I've always had the dock at the bottom of my screen, and I've always, in most cases, I've chosen to leave it visible, but you can definitely set it up so it's not, or it hides until you need it. But you might consider, if you have a laptop or another screen that's relatively small, to move the dock to one side or the other of the screen, on the left or the right. And to do this sort of thing, again, you'll go into the system preferences. You can also get it from the bottom there. And you go into dock and menu bar, and you'll see your options. So you can position it left, bottom, or right. And you can adjust the size of your dock if you weren't familiar with that, and that sort of thing. So there is some customization you can do. I tend to leave it at the bottom, but if I had a small screen, I think I would probably put it on the left, because there's more width on the screen than there is height. Okay, so another thing that I have done is to create these little launching icons for websites. So it's kind of like a little a dashboard where you just click a button and it goes to a website. So I have one for Google News that will open it up, and one for my Gmail account. There's one for YouTube. And to create something like this, you would simply, let's move this down a little bit. Oops. It doesn't want to let me move it down. Okay. Here, if I click on a link, you'll see to the left of that is a little tiny icon. And you just grab that by clicking on it with your main mouse button, and you can drag it down here to the area to the right of your main applications, kind of next to your downloads, and it will make a link that you can click on and go directly to that website. You can do some neat things like if you grab it and drag it to the desktop, and then you right click or go up here to get info for the file, you can actually browse for an icon on the internet and paste it into this little spot right here, and it'll make a custom icon. And that's what I've done for some of these down here for YouTube and Google News and Gmail and my Hinsdale library mail. So that's kind of something that's fun and an easy way to get to the places that you go all the time. Another thing that's popular nowadays is the use of emojis. I'm going to open up a new note here. So emojis, people use them on their phone mainly, but you can also use them on your computer. And Apple has a built-in emoji tool to help you find them. So you hit Command Control space, and that brings up the sort of emoji search engine that Apple has built in. So you can search for cake, and it'll show you all the cakes, and you just click on the one you want, and it will insert it into wherever you are in a text box, an email, a document. So that's pretty cool. And what I like about it is that it's kind of a smart search engine. You don't have to get it exactly right, but it will give you options. So if I click on Halo, there's that, and I've inserted the Halo. There's an application that makes this process a little bit easier if you're a really heavy user of emojis, and that is Rocket. So Rocket sort of watches you type, and then if you press colon and then you type in an emoji name, I don't know if that is one. See, you have to know the exact name. So no, that didn't work. I don't think I have it on. Let's see, Rocket. Try this again. That didn't work. So something isn't working with Rocket, but basically it will interpret that and turn it into an emoji, and you can you don't have to do the command control space bar. Remember what that is. You just press a colon and start typing the name of the emoji. And ordinarily it works, just not right now. Okay, so screen capturing. Some of you may be in a position where you need to occasionally do a screen grab. They call it print screen in the Windows world, but on the Macintosh side, I think they call it screen capture. So the normal way to do that is Command-Shift-3, and that will grab the entire view of your desktop and screenshot. Yes. So I'm going to do that. I hit Command-Shift-3, and I have a utility installed that's sort of taking over. It's called CleanShot, and I'll tell you about that once I go through some of these. But it basically will allow you to take a screenshot of a whole variety of things using different techniques. But Apple does have some pretty good ones built in. So if you hit Command-Shift-4, you can capture a specific area. So you can drag your cursor and just capture that part of the screen. And Command-Shift-5 will bring up a little toolbar that lets you sort of decide what to do. Now these aren't working exactly right because I have this third-party application installed, which I'll show you now. So this was a $29 application, and you can see all the ways you can capture a screen. So you can capture area, just like I mentioned. You can capture a scrolling portion of a website. I use this pretty regularly. If you have a really long web page that you're viewing, you can start the capture and scroll down, and it'll grab a big, long, narrow document, an image of that page you can zoom in on later. So that's pretty cool. So that's, if you do a lot of this sort of thing, if you're doing any sort of documentation, screen grabbing can be great. And this is, again, CleanShot X.
Once you capture something, either with Command-Shift-3 or one of these more advanced ways, then it's in your clipboard and you can paste it somewhere else, like into an email?
It goes to your desktop typically. And then if you do Command-Control-Shift and then the number, so instead of Command-Shift, you do Command-Control-Shift, that will send it to the clipboard instead of the desktop as a file.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question about the clipboard. I don't know where you see what's in the clipboard.
Well, it's sort of hidden. You never, in the standard application, you never actually see what's in the clipboard. It's just kind of, it's whatever is the last thing you copied to, and you just have to instinctively know what that is. But I am going to talk about an application in just a couple minutes that will show you what's in your clipboard, or at least give you some clues. So you might hold on for that.
Okay, thanks.
But that's, yeah, it goes into this sort of mysterious black hole,
right.
and and you're going, what did I do? So I get it. It's a little weird. So you may notice that I have a lot of these little icons at the top of my screen, a lot more than come with the Mac. And these are little applications that I've installed to help supposedly make my life easier. There's a tool that you can use to sort of rearrange those that Apple includes, which is simply holding Command down and then dragging the order. You can change the order of whatever you're using. So you can see up here, I can move this little icon to the right by hitting Command, clicking, and dragging. So that's pretty nice. But there's a tool that I like called Bartender, which tends your menu bar. So that's this little icon here. And if I do preferences, it has many, many options. But if you go to menu bar layout, you can see that I'm able to hide menu bar items that I don't use very often, or that sort of thing. There's even a way to always hide them. So here's my always hidden menu bar items. So the cool thing about Bartender is you can simply, I think you can just left click up into the sort of hidden area, and you'll see all those that I have that I don't usually keep up there, but they'll appear temporarily. So there's a lot of them. So if you're in a position where you're installing some of these things and you want an uncluttered menu bar, check out Bartender. It's $15, but I think it's pretty worthwhile. There are some free ones, like Hidden Bar is a way to go if you'd rather not pay for the commercial application. It can do a lot of the same sort of thing. So moving on to some of the general utility apps that I use. One of the great secrets in the Mac world is this thing called Alfred. And you may be familiar with the Spotlight search. And to do Spotlight, you hit Command Spacebar, and it brings up this very powerful search bar. So you can search for your files. So I can search for HPL logo, and it'll show me where I can find that on my computer, or I can define words. I can do all sorts of things.
I mean, yeah, before this.
So that's Spotlight, and it's great. But Alfred takes Spotlight to the next level. So I have Alfred installed, and I actually paid for the $29 more powerful version, but the free one does an awful lot. And I have my Alfred set up to hit, if I hit Shift bar twice, it pops up this Alfred window. So here you can do a lot of the same things and then some. So you can do calculations, and then you hit enter, and it stores the result in the clipboard. So I'm going to hit paste in this document. I am going to hit paste in this document. Hello. Okay. Things are not working quite right at the moment, but basically it saves the result of your calculation and puts it in the clipboard for pasting somewhere else. But what I use Alfred for an awful lot is launching applications. So instead of going down into the dock and seeing where an application that I want to switch to is and clicking on it, I can start Alfred and then just type in the application's name or even the first few characters, and it'll open it up. So this works for control panels. If I want to change my mouse preferences, I can do that. It's really fast, and if you're kind of keyboard focused, it'll do a lot for you. You can see it even does things like you could type in screensaver, and it'll immediately launch the screensaver, or lock or log out of your computer. Even I put this email Susan. So it'll launch my default mail application, and it'll know that Susan's the person that I most regularly talk to with that first name, and it'll start an email. So Alfred is a really powerful tool. Another one that I recently bought is Clean My Mac X. Before I went on this spree, I was pretty much opposed to spending any additional money because I thought the Mac had pretty much everything I needed. But as I began to explore more of what was available, I found that there are some really powerful tools there. So Clean My Mac X is just a good utility to keep everything running the way it should. So it'll it'll scan for junk in your system. It'll let you uninstall programs easily. Just dragging an application to the trash and deleting it doesn't get rid of all the traces of the application, whereas this will. It does malware detection. It has this thing called Space Lens that lets you identify all the files on your Mac that may be large. Like here, I've got large and old files. I can do a scan, and it'll tell me which files are really big that I may, if I'm running out of room, that I may want to get rid of or move to an external drive or something. So it's just a very powerful general utility. It's $40, but I think it's worth it. Another application that I like is Carbon Copy Cloner. I didn't know I liked it until I found myself at the mercy. I didn't have a backup of my main hard drive on this computer before I upgraded to Big Sur, and it crashed. I couldn't boot. And if I had used Carbon Copy Cloner before that, I could have attached an extra drive and said clone my main drive, and it's pretty easy to do. And that creates an actual bootable drive of what you've backed up. And you can make a task that will constantly update that. So your external drive is always a carbon copy of your main drive, and you can just plug it in and boot to that instead if you ever run into problems. So I do recommend this. Time Machine doesn't offer that same functionality. It's much more of a chore to get your files back, although it is free. It comes with your Mac. So those are some of the general utilities I use, but let's talk about some of the very focused ones. So Hazeover is something, if you find yourself being distracted by multiple windows that are open, Hazeover takes the window that you're using and makes it the normal brightness, but then dims everything else so you can focus on something that's in front of you. So as you can see, the folders in the background, or the windows in the background, are kind of grayed out, and that lets me just focus all my attention on what's active. It's a simple application, but it does what it does very well. For those of you who maybe have a limited amount of RAM, this utility that's free called Memory Diag, I assume that's like memory diagnosis or diagnostic, lives in your toolbar. Let's see, Memory Diagnostic. It has a little icon like a memory chip. I'm getting interference from my, well, anyway. There we go. So you can see this shows how much RAM is being used. And if you are running tight on RAM, it'll tell you here that your pressure on your RAM is high. And then you can click this little recycle icon, and it will try to free up some RAM so you don't get stuck with too little memory and have it slow down on you. So this is a free app that I would recommend people keep around just in case you need it sometime. Another app that I'd like to talk about is called EasyRes. And EasyRes is this little icon. Geez. So you can see that shaped icon. Okay, so here on the Mac, when you try to change your display resolution, there are nowadays there are not many options that you get, but this one gives you an incredible number of options that your monitor may support. So I have mine set to 2560 by 1440 just to make it a little bigger, but I could go to my normal setting, which is 3200 by 1800, and it'll make that switch really quickly. It just opens up a whole world of possibilities for minute variations in resolution. And that's a free app too. So just check that out, Easy Res. Another thing I have up here at the top is, you can see I have home, docs, and apps. This is something called X menu. So X menu, if you click on home, it gives you like a hierarchical view of what's in your home menu. Same with your documents. And you can click on or navigate to anything that you need to, and it'll open it up. So that's, excuse me, kind of handy. So you may have noticed, that I have this fancy mouse. That is Pro Mouse. Excuse me just for a second. And Pro Mouse lets you highlight your cursor, and then you can press a modifier key and it will enlarge. So that can be kind of handy if you're doing things like I'm doing. So it's sort of a limited use application, but it may come in handy sometime. So Johanna, you were talking about the clipboard. This application Copy Clip, which is right here, will show you the last several things that you've copied into your clipboard. So you can actually see what those are, or at least the beginnings of them. So this could help solve the problem of where it goes to in this black hole. So every time I hit copy for something, well, let's see. So I just hit Command C. So this should appear. Yes, so there it is. So if I then click on this, that loads that into the clipboard where I can use Command V to paste. So that could be a help. Now, Copy Clip, I just got a notification that they created a version 2 of the application that costs like $8, and it should have some enhanced features, but I believe the original one should still be on the App Store. So check out Copy Clip. Now, speaking of clipping things, there is an application called Pop Clip that I like. So I'm going to open up my Apple Notes app here. Let's see. Okay, so this takes, it allows you to take action on anything that you highlight. So I just highlighted this, and it brings up this little menu above the text where you can do cut, copy, paste, and you can sort of customize it. So I have one that says, this is like a title case changer. So this is highlighted now, and I click on this title case, and it will change everything to title case. Or if I highlight this, I can open it in an email. So I want to send this little clipping to somebody. Here's country style sport pork ribs. Oops. I guess it disappears pretty quickly, huh? There we go. I want to send that in an email to somebody, so that copies that into the body of the email, and I can then just send the email along to somebody. It's just a really quick application that could be handy. It's $13, which seems like a little much for this, but it seems like they're bringing in other developers to link to other kinds of applications. So there's a whole slew of things you can do with this stuff that's highlighted. So I think that's pretty cool. Another one that I've purchased is Forecast Bar. So you can see that up here in the menu. It shows the current temperature, and you click on it and it'll give you a forecast for like today, what the temperature will be. And then going forward, you can set up how many days you want it to appear in the future. So you have to pay for this for a subscription. So $8 a year gets you menu bar updates every 15 minutes. It'll update the weather. So I think that's kind of cool if you're into weather at all, or just want to know whether you need to put on a raincoat when you go out. Something like Forecast Bar is pretty good. ItzyCal is something I wish was kind of built into the Mac operating system. So you can see up here, I've got something that says Wednesday, January 27th. If I click on that, it brings up a tiny little calendar, an itsy bitsy calendar that shows, where I am in the month, and the little red dots are if I have events scheduled for that day. So I can click on a date in the future and see what I've got going on. It'll even let me click on this icon, which is the calendar app, and I can open that in the calendar app. So ItzyCal, that's another free one that I like. Take a look. And I think if you double click on a date, it'll let you add an event. So it's a pretty easy way to get something into your calendar really quickly. So just a few more things. So for productivity apps, I've been doing a lot of note-taking recently and trying to find what a good note-taking app is. And Apple's Notes app is pretty darn good. I used it pretty heavily. You can see I've got lots and lots of different notes that I've that I've collected over the years. There's a tip that a lot of people don't know about, though, is when you select a note, you can choose window from the menu bar and have it float. So now this is a little floating window that's above everything else. So I could go to a website I want to take notes on, and then just keep this open and type away. Or maybe you have a video, like a video conference like this one. You could open up a new note and have it float to the top and just kind of type notes as you're listening to it. So I think that's kind of cool. But at a certain point, I felt I could do a little better maybe than Apple's Notes. So I found this application called Bear, Bear. And that's what I actually created this list of applications and tips was in Bear. And Bear is this sort of minimalistic, easy to use application for entering text. And it uses something called Markdown language, which I guess the goal of this is to keep you from having to type a little bit, then grab your mouse and highlight something and then make it boldface. It lets you sort of do this all as you're typing. So if you want to make a heading of the first order, you would type in a hash mark space, then the title of the heading. And then if you have a second order heading, you just do 2 pound signs, and then whatever your second heading is. And the same thing for like list items, you can do an asterisk, and then it'll start creating an unordered list, and you can take your notes that way. It's just a very small footprint application that is elegant, and it's very much in keeping with the way that Mac does things. So if you need,
I have a question about that. So
yeah,
because oftentimes when I try and paste things I use the notes a lot. And when I try and paste things, it changes the formatting. So you're saying that this app would preserve the formatting?
Well, I haven't tried that. Let's give it a shot and see. So I'm going to open up an article. I know there's a way to paste in a certain way that would either keep or discard the formatting. I don't happen to remember what that is, but I'm going to grab some of this text and see what happens when I paste it. So it looks like I sort of pasted it into the heading section. So I think, yeah, it doesn't really do much other than it converts the link to its little format of links here. But for the most part, it seems like it's just grabbing the text.
Mm-hmm. But what about for a note that you create?
Okay. All right. So I have a new note here. Okay. So what am I doing now?
So you're making a bullet list or something like that.
Okay. So I'm going to hit asterisk space, and then it automatically starts the bullet list.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I hit enter, sort of in a blank enter will stop the list from happening. If you need to see how to format things using this markdown language, you can click on this icon, and that's a little, it'll show you how to create headings and make a line separator, and it uses italics like that. So it's a pretty cool little program. I don't know if it's not the answer for all note taking, but if you're doing a lot of text entry, it's pretty good. Okay. So let's see. So here's my main note. There's also this little info box. So it will do a word count, a character count, how long it might take to read. So that these are features you don't usually see in a notes app. But probably the best thing about this is that it can export in a lot of different ways. So if you go up to File, Export Notes, and these are all the different choices I have. So I exported it as a PDF, but I could have done RTF, rich text format, just normal text. It'll even do an EPUB if you want to sort of try to create an ebook. It will do that as well. So that's where it's really strong, I think, is in its exporting. And yeah, so it's pretty good. GoodNotes is an application that I've used for a little while that I like. I don't think the Mac is the best place to experience GoodNotes. I'll open it up here because its strength is if you're taking an Apple Pencil or something and writing with that in a GoodNotes note, it's really good at handwritten notes. So let's see. I'm trying to find one of my handwritten notes that I did on my iPad. So it syncs with your iPad or your iPhone. So everything is always up to date. Yeah, here we go. So my handwriting is pretty bad, but you can see that I've got all this handwriting here, and you can use these tools like the highlighter tool to highlight sections of the note, and it'll even sort of straighten out your highlights so they're linear and not all over the place. So I like that a lot. I use it for marking up PDF notes too. So for example, I've been on a photography kick lately. So if I go into my photography notes, so, you know, if there's a certain portion of this that I'd like to highlight, I can use the highlighter. You could also draw shapes. So it'll kind of straighten out your scribblings to make them look good. So I like that as well. So GoodNotes, I think, is better on the iPad, but since it syncs up with the iPad, it's pretty valuable. So the last thing I'd like to mention is if you're ever doing any photo editing and you're looking for something more powerful than Apple's Photos app, which is actually pretty good, but if you want to do something a little bit more, I recommend an application called Pixelmator Pro. And this is one that occasionally goes on sale, so you might be able to get it for less than its full price of $40. But I do like this. Here's a photo of me quite a while ago, and you can see that it's very small. This was at a trade show in New York City, and they have this feature in Pixelmator Pro that lets you kind of, I guess, upscale the image so it doesn't look so blocky when you resize it up. This was back in the infancy of digital cameras, and they had very small pictures that came out of them. So before I do that, I'm going to click on this little ML Enhance, and a lot of these programs have things that will try to fix your photos, and that's not too bad. Let's zoom in a little bit here, so you can see that there's a lot of noise. Or maybe it's hard to see, but this gentleman's face here is blotchy and that sort of thing. It's just artifacts from the resizing. But if you use this feature, let's see, called ML Super Resolution. It's going to try to create a bigger image that's a little smoother. So now if we zoom in, it looks a little unnatural, but it's a great improvement over what it was. You can also do things like, let's see, like this little healing brush. I can get rid of things that I don't want in the image, and it's very powerful in that way. So these are tools that are available in things like Photoshop, but if you don't want to spend the subscription, so every month you have to pay for Photoshop nowadays, if you want a one-time deal, I think Pixelmator Pro is a really good way to go. So that's pretty much what I have for you this evening. Are there any questions?
Mike, I had one question. In terms of the overall system, you mentioned sort of Clean My Mac. Do you recommend anything in terms of security? You know, sort of from the bad actors, or is the Mac overall protected well on its own, or do you recommend any other protective?
Yeah, that's a good question. I personally don't have any specific software installed for that. Clean My Mac has that sort of malware scanning functionality that I use, which for me, that seems to be good enough. But, you know, in today's day and age, I don't think it's paranoid to think that people are trying to, you know, get into your system or that sort of thing. So I'm not aware of any particular products that I would recommend. I don't think getting something like an antivirus program is necessary on the Mac as it is on the PC or that sort of thing.
Okay.
Sure. Any other questions? Well, I'd like to thank you all again for coming this evening. Again, if you want to refer back to this video, it will be on our YouTube channel. And if you have any questions about any of this, my email address is on the document that I sent out. So feel free to hit me up with any questions you may have. So thank you all very much for coming.